Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode from Ampro Engineering, and in this episode we're going to work on our little Tamiya Falcon. In an earlier episode, the front end went from being broken and largely black in plastic to repaired and largely yellow. Who are we kidding? Completely yellow. But in this episode we're going to take a look at the rear of the car. Now I've had many requests to replace the rear shock towers on these cars. So you know what? Not a problem. Ampro is going to have available these two exact copy direct replacement rear shock towers for your Tamiya Falcon that will accept the standard rear body mount, which would go something like this. But you know, that's cool and all, a little boring. So what we've gone ahead and done is taken this very simple yet perhaps largely effective rear body post and shock mount and gone ahead and made this. Now what we've got here is a little bit of overkill. There is a variation of this rear body mount that only has the vertical posts as well as this rear bracing here, which is fantastic if you just want to run your stock body with a little bit more rigidity in the rear shock tower area, or you can go ahead and opt for the crazy one, which I've done over here, which will include this rear portion that allows you to have wing mounts instead of relying on the body to support the rear wing. Let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to do is take the rear shock towers here off of our Falcon, pretend these are broken, and we'll throw them in the bin, and then let's pick up from there and install this. I went ahead and chose the yellow option on Shapeways, but prior to installing it, this has been covered with a coat of matte clear coat to prevent any dirt from sticking to it. The porous nature of the nylon means that any kind of mud really is difficult to get off, so go ahead and just give it a coat of clear, and I would recommend matte because it doesn't give it that glossy look, and then go ahead and install. Whether you're going for the wing mount version, the HD version, or even the stock version, you'll have to clean out both of these holes here on each side with a 3mm drill bit, and then clean these guys out here with a 2mm drill bit. Be careful not to drill straight through the diagonal braces as well. Once you've done that, we can install it. For the HD version, which is going to be the most complex to install, you'll see it should snap in where the stock shock mounts go. However, you can see that the rear comes into contact with the cage, and that's because this part snaps directly over the cage. You're probably wondering why I chose to snap it over the cage versus using the mount that is right there, and there's a very good explanation for that. In the event of a rollover where this thing will flex, I wanted the rear cage to flex versus applying all the load directly onto this strut here and snapping off the mount from the transmission. That was the thinking over here. Is that how it's going to play in real life? Well, that's a great question. Perhaps these could have been mounted farther back, but then you're talking about even more load applied to this point here because this is a very flexible piece. I don't know. I went ahead and did the least worst option. If you have concerns about this, go ahead and go for the standard HD version or the stock replacement. We'll go ahead and line all this up. You'll also note that the factory battery tray is no longer usable with the HD and the Wing HD version. But as I'm not running a mechanical speed control with the auxiliary batteries, that is of no use to me. All right, so I'll just go ahead and install all these screws. You'll use all the exact same hardware that was used when you removed the parts from your Falcon. The rear mount has been fully installed. Perhaps a bit excessive, but you know, why not? Next we should install the shocks, but since I'm here, I'm gonna go ahead and rebuild these. I went ahead and rebuilt the rear shocks. I think now it's time to install them. Again, we'll use the exact same hardware that the car came with. And there, oops, I'll get you in. All right, there that is. All right, the rear suspension mount has been installed. Please don't forget to clean out the body mounting hole if you're going with the HD or the HD wing mount variant. I just went ahead and used a 1mm drill bit in a pin vise, and that worked out perfectly. Let's go ahead and install this. And there we have it. All right, the body pin is in, and it's a little hard to see, but the hole for the wing is right through there. This means you can do a couple of things. You can actually thread in the stock wing directly into the rear mount, which means that in a rollover, the wing is, not going to put all the stress on the body. but that also means that in a rollover, the wing is going to be completely destroyed because it's going to be rigidly mounted. So it's my recommendation that we install this in a similar fashion to some of the higher end buggies. In particular, I'm thinking about these little wing mounts on my RC10 V2. Okay. So these little mounts will simply line straight up. So this is what we're going to do. So let's go ahead and grab a wing, some of these wing buttons, and some piano wire, and install the wing. I've got these team associated wing buttons, and I mean, you can use really whatever kind that you want to use. I've used these for years. I think they're really, really good. I've also got some 1.6 millimeter piano wire. I think that's a pretty good diameter. In fact, I've already got it jammed in there. Any larger, and you may make it way too hard to get the wing in and out of this, and as the body has to come off to change the battery, that could get annoying very quickly. You also want something durable because when the car rolls over, you want to keep the load off of the wing mounts. What this is going to do is provide shock absorption. When the wing is impacted, the wing can flex, the wing won't break off, and then you won't destroy the wing mounts either. This also is not the factory wing. I tend to not use the factory wings because they're usually a little harder to get. And on top of that, I find that these larger wings provide more tunable downforce. Anyway, I will bend this piece of piano wire and then put some holes in the wings and install it. Okay, we'll drop the wing in, grab it with some pliers, and this gives us our overall depth. And then go ahead and just bend it with your finger here. Don't go more than 90 degrees. In fact, right now I'm at about, I don't know, 100, because I don't want the wing to be flat. I want it to be slightly bent up. And I think starting at 100 is probably pretty good. The reason you don't want to go beyond 90 and then go back and forth is that when you do that, you concentrate the stress at the bend point. That makes the metal right there harder and ultimately more brittle. So the fewer bends, the better. And I probably want to have the wing, I don't know, I kind of want to, I know it's supposed to be right here. I'm going to put it a little bit further back like that. So I'll probably bend this right here somewhere. I'm kind of eyeballing it, I guess. Okay, right about here. All right, and that is pretty close. I'll grab this here, like that, and bend it down. And that is pretty darn close. And be careful. You don't want the rod to shoot off and hit you in the eye. That would be bad. We'll test fit this. And there we have it. Install this. We'll put the buttons in. And of course, the wing's not painted or anything yet. And we'll have to take this apart later. Just kind of reorient this to get the wing through the hole. I'll have to do the same on the other side. That one's in. Should wrap around that little hole like that. I kind of want them right there. Just like that. You don't want the corner to go into the button because that's just going to weaken the wing. You want the wing to rest on the wire as much as possible so that in a rollover, the force is more distributed. It does look like we'll have to bend these in a little bit, but that's okay. So a couple of set screws now. You'll tie the set screws in right in there, the little guy, and everything will be done. The key to installing this wing to not actually letting it fall out is not to slide the rods in when they're perfectly straight, because if you do that, it'll just pull right out. So what you want to do is put a very slight bend in this wire. Not that much, because you don't want it to actually bind, but kind of toward the bottom, put a little kink in it, and it may take a couple of attempts. Because what you want it to do is get kind of stuck inside the tube. Just like that's a little tiny kink right there. And let's see if that's enough or too much. I may have put a little bit too much. Yeah, it's a little too much on the right side. This side's perfect here, this side isn't. So we'll back this off a bit. And before you put the wing in, just make sure that if you hold it over there, that the wires line up as closely as possible, because you don't want the load to, push the wing mounts apart or inboard. The only load that you want to apply to this is a vertical one, like that. So we'll just drop on in. All right. And there we have it. Now we've got a nice durable wing mount. Lastly, we'll install the wing directly through the holes in the body. Just like that. And there we go. Well, folks, thank you for watching another upgrade video for the Tamiya Falcon. I do have a couple of more upgrades coming very soon, at which point I think all that will be left of the car is the tub and the transmission. But that's okay. We'll have a very yellow Falcon. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.